So mixing colour on the paper versus mixing colour on the palette. So this is an interesting one that I didn't learn for many years, and I really like now mixing colour on the paper rather than the palette. So what I've done here is I've got half a teaspoon of water in each of these wells. I've got two really common colours, alizarin crimson, taking a pea-sized blob in. So that's my alizarin crimson. Ultramarine, again another common colour, nice pea-sized blob. I'm just looking for a consistent mix. Ultramarine tends to, in the variety of paint I use, it tends to need a little bit more to be consistent. Every brand of paint is always a little bit different. So there's my ultramarine. Then I'm going to show you how you can mix them on the paper, but also the difference when you mix it on the palette. So I'm then going to take the alizarin crimson and the ultramarine together. So I've made a nice purple on the palette. So if I pop this here, that's a mix that I've made on the palette. So you can always do this. I do it frequently, mixing colours in the palette, but I just want to show you the difference of if you mix it on the paper. So I'm still going to go on to dry. I'm going to come into the alizarin crimson, rinse off, come into the ultramarine blue, and you're going to let it settle and you'll see the difference. If I do the same with the ultramarine blue now, because you've got two different variations of this mix if you mix it on the paper. Then mix the alizarin crimson in. It's sometimes hard to see. You can already see there's a big difference with how they are mixing. It's hard to see this totally until it's dry. So what I'll do is I'll bring the video back on when these have dried so you can see the variation. It's much more vibrant when you mix on the paper, and it's much more varied. And it's useful to know this when you're thinking about applying things. So if you were, for instance, painting a leaf, you could paint it with a solid green and get a lovely flat edge, but you could also put a lot of tone into that by painting it by mixing the colours on the page. Hope that helps. Okay, it's dry at last, waiting for paint to dry, the longest time ever. Okay, so you can now see the big difference. So this one was mixed on the palette, a purple on the palette. This one was alizarin crimson with the blue added. This one was ultramarine blue with the alizarin crimson added. And you've got a very different effect. So these ones are much more varied, much more tonal. They've still got a purple element to them. And it's just about choosing on your watercolour journey where you want to use these. So as I said about the leaf, you could paint a leaf and have it a very flat leaf and have the light, the water as a light for the tone. You could do the colours, you could use a yellow and a blue or a green and a blue and add these in to a leaf and get some natural tone appearing. So it's a really useful thing to know, and it sort of takes your watercolour to another level. Hope you find it useful. See you next time.